Hello, I am Eric Odom, the broker for Florida RY Commercial Property Brokerage here in Tampa, Florida, and wanted to take just a minute to introduce one of our attorneys that we use on a regular basis, Larry Silvestri. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you have over 35 years of experience in real estate
That's
law,
correct.
practicing here in the state of Florida. Yeah. Now, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today because there's an important issue that you brought up. You sent me an email from an article that you had scribed for the Tampa Times about title and fraudulent title, and it really kind of scared the life out of me. So I was like, okay, well, I think people need to know what's going on here. So maybe you could just sort of start with what the issue is here, and we can go from there.
I'd be happy to, Eric. So for me, it started with these commercials on TV for something called home title lock. And the commercials are generally set up as a fraudster who had been doing this before, tells everybody how easy it is, and that you need to sign up for home title lock, which is something like LifeLock on your credit. And it kind of got to me because I've been in real estate lawyer for many years. I actually started in Michigan. I was in Ohio. I've been in Florida for over 20 years. And most of my career, I was in-house counsel with real estate development companies doing ground-up development projects. So I was always involved with title, but I was never looking at it from the underwriter's perspective. We left that to the attorneys that we used or the title companies. And I started my own law practice after my in-house position went away here in St. Pete about 7 years ago, and primarily focusing on commercial leasing, as you know. But last year, after finding a good paralegal, I decided I was going to do title work because people were telling me it's a service you should offer, and it's easy. Well, it's not as easy as people think. But once I had a paralegal and with the training and the software, it's in my bandwidth. And having seen that commercial for a long time, I thought, is this really an issue? Is this really something?
So the issue is this fraudulent title.
Yes,
that's the issue.
Yeah, the way he explains it on TV, which is one of the scenarios. Where the fraudster just goes in and kind of steals someone's identity. A lot of times they do it with a quitclaim deed, because with a quitclaim deed, it only costs 70 cents to record, because on its face, it doesn't appear that there's any value being transferred. So with a warranty deed, actually with either deed, if there's value being transferred, you're supposed to claim it and you pay transfer taxes on it. So and sometimes they'll do warranty deeds and pay a small amount, but it's cheaper for the fraudster to just put a quitclaim deed, which essentially is a deed that says, I'm going to convey to you, party X, whatever interest I have in this property. Now, I don't warrant that I have any interest, but I'm going to give it to you. What often happens is that can be used in a circumstance where interfamily transfers are made, where they're really for, as they say, love and affection, no real value. Or if there is a question as to whether somebody, like the wife of someone that transferred, has not transferred her interest properly because she didn't join in the deed and it was jointly held. So quitclaim deeds are good to clear up problems that you identify. They're not really good to transfer title to a property, but it happens, I guess. I was skeptical, but it happens that based on this transfer of title, these fraudsters can borrow money, or sometimes they just extort money from the owner.
So let's just try to summarize. The fraudster steals person A's identity, quitclaims let's say his name's John Smith. Quitclaims John Smith's property to himself, the fraudster, and then the fraudster files. He gets a quitclaim, and then he takes that quitclaim and gets a mortgage. Is that accurate?
Apparently.
Okay,
Now,
so he's getting a
now
mortgage.
the question that I've always had, and I guess I'm just wrong in thinking that anybody lending money would do the proper due diligence to find this out. But I don't know if the lenders are in cahoots that do this or what, but it does actually happen and become a problem that people have to actually litigate to clear their title.
Right, so now John Smith, who originally owned the property, still does own the property as far as he knows, tries to sell his property, tries to convey it legally to someone else, and then he hears for the first time that there's a mortgage on the property. Is that
That's correct.
generally what's happening?
He learns that he no longer, it appears on the record that he no longer owns it, and someone has filed on TV. The guy says 3 mortgages. By the time you find out, and they show dramatically people getting these default bills, default invoices, and everything. So that's dramatic, but it really does happen. I actually have in my hand, after the article published, a woman reached out to me and said, "This is exactly what's happening to us." And her husband had written a 3-page explanation, or more than 3 pages because it's 2-sided, of what happened to them. And he's also done research on others. And this guy, it drills down the entity that apparently owns their house and the person that conveyed it to them are already in lawsuits in South Florida. And that...
Oh, it's a shocker to me that this comes from South Florida.
Well, fraud...
That never happens. Never. Of course, you know I'm being
sarcastic. Of course you are.
It seems like every sort of... Yeah.
Well, the birth... Yeah, the Florida man story really should be South Florida man. But
right.
Not Tampa Bay man or St. Pete man. But that's... So I actually also had, when the article was posted, I had some people saying, "Oh, this really isn't a problem." But it is a problem. It's a problem often where vacant land is involved, where you have absentee owners. And in fact, this is part of the title training that I received, pointing out, there's wire fraud. We can talk about that if you want. There's these other types of things, but this vacant land transfer fraud, it has become very popular in Florida. And I actually I just started doing this last year, and I've already had 2 cases where brokers have come to me. This is a little different spin. This is the fraudulent buyer with purchase and sale agreements with a buyer who, in the first case, it was vacant land, and he was going to put down $200,000. He actually jerked around everybody, and finally, because we want him to wire the funds, I get a check from a bank, BMO Harris, looks real, $200,000. Now, I'm already on red alert. So I go to my bank, I say, "Is this good?" They said, "Well, we'll just put it in the system and find out." By the time I get back to my office, I get an email from the buyer saying, "I've changed my mind. I want to cancel this transaction. Wire me my funds back." And of course, because I've just recently been trained and I'm not jaded, and I'm on top of this. I know this is, I don't have good funds yet. So I email them back and say, "When your check clears, I'll send you a check." And a few days passed, he even asked for it again, because these people are very bold. And by that time, I found out it bounced, and I just said, "I'm not going to send you money." And in some cases, my banker even said, "Don't even bother reporting it to the feds." That's a separate.
Yeah, because
that's a separate thing.
Right.
But these people do the same. We brokers, attorneys, title agents, are maybe the last best person to stop these frauds. And in the one case with the wire, that's kind of a wire fraud. I would have been the victim, because if I had the funds in my account and wired them out, I would owe my trust account $200,000. Period. And it,
Yeah, that's good funds.
yeah. So
The Fed wire is good funds.
it's good funds.
Cashier's check is not good funds.
No.
People think that it is. It's the same as a wire. It is not the same as a
No,
wire.
you got to let it clear and actually enter into, and frankly, as part of my title training, because I'm an escrow agent with those funds, it does get drilled into you that bad things can happen if you don't follow the rules very closely.
So let's get back to the fraudulent title.
Yes.
Is it possible for that person to quit claim and then they try to sell it?
Yes.
Or is it only done with mortgages?
No.
Okay, so
They
try to
sell as well.
They get a quit claim.
Mm-hmm. They sell it to
So
an
you got a
unknowing
quit claim
person.
Yeah. So it's not just mortgage.
No.
It can also be someone that says, hey, I got a quit claim deed, and hey, let's do a cash deal. I'll give you a 10% discount if you do this in 10 days. All you have to do is wire the funds and that's it.
Right, and we don't need a broker. We don't need a broker involved. We don't need a title company involved. I'm giving you, and a lot of times it's heavily discounted. And think about vacant land. The value of vacant land, until you know what you're doing with it, is almost subjective. So if you had a broker do an opinion of value, you'd be more in the ballpark. But if you just looked at the tax rolls, and the tax roll says, for example, this property is being taxed as if it's worth $1 million, and somebody says, I'm going to give it to you for $500 because I need the money right now. Of course, it's not generating cash, but we got to do it quick. It happens. And I'm certainly not privy to all the reports of how these happen, but they do happen. And
man, it's scary. And I read that, and I'd never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was never in my wildest dreams that you could quit claim a deed. We did either quit claims or deed in lieu of foreclosures when I was at the bank, but I don't know what I was thinking. Been in this business for a long time, Larry. 37 years, and it was when I saw that, it struck me because I was like, man, I always feel like it's a safe and secure environment inside of real estate in terms of conveyance of title in this state and really most of the United States. But it was like, wow, it kind of jolted me that there's the title can be an issue. And there can be fraudulent conveyance of that title, and it's just something I hadn't come across before. So, we had all kinds of sticky issues.
so you drill down, and you
Yeah.
think, oh, where's the flaw? If you're selling a car, you have a title transfers, the state's involved, and I don't know of any particular fraud scheme in cars, but in property, the county clerk is required to take those deeds if on their face they connect all the dots. So the county clerk isn't really in a position to cross-check things, and certainly can't do a signature analysis to see if anything's not right with the last deed. So right now, until something changes, I had people comment on line that, well, the county clerk should be able to control this. They should be able to. Well, we don't have a real good mechanism.
How can it?
And they don't have the staff to do that. The current legislative, the role is take it, see if it's properly acknowledged, see if it has, the right minimum words, which are pretty minimum in a quitclaim deed, and to collect the fee required to record it. So now, as you saw in my article, to me, this became kind of a pet peeve because of the TV thing, and I'm thinking, why are people paying money for this? Well, now that I know it happens, and particularly it affects vacant land and the elderly, because absentee owners and the elderly can be targets. it turns out in Florida, we do have programs at the county level for you to be notified if anything happens to your title, if there's something recorded that appears to file a lien or a transfer or any of that. But you have to sign up for it. It's not, and again, partly because the court clerks have limited resources and don't have the systems to like just send out a notice to anybody. But we're encouraging people to sign up so that they will get that notification. And there's also some legislation that's being worked through
Proposed.
that would do a test case where there'd be some requirements that brokers and title companies, and probably attorneys as well, who are involved in these processes would give the clerk a heads up. Because it's hard to unring the bell. The sooner you get to a fraudulent deed problem, and that's why the notification can really help. You still have an issue. We haven't quite figured out how to prevent it, and so many frauds schemes are out there. They're always one step ahead as to how they do the fraud, but we at least are looking at how to make it easier to address, to unring that bell, and have the property title corrected.
Okay, Larry, this is like when you said this to me, I really was appreciative. It was kind of a slap in the face for me. It was a wake up call. Hadn't really thought about these things previously. And so appreciated you sending that to me, and I thought it would be a good idea for us to do a quick recording on this. Before I get you off the phone, why don't you do a little plug in terms of how people can get in touch with you and what kind of business that you seek to do, what do your clients do, and all that sort of thing.
Okay, so as I kind of said in the beginning, for most of my career, I was in-house counsel with development companies, mostly doing shopping centers. So a large part of what I do is in that retail arena. I do a lot of commercial leases. So part of my marketing is I'm LarryTheLeasingLawyer.com. And that will take you to my website, Silvestri Law PA. My phone number is 727-456-0017. And where I bring value to my clients is in the transactional arena. I don't do disputes. I don't go to court ever. I sometimes handle landlord-tenant disputes where it's a learning process and a negotiation, but not if it looks like it's going to be litigation.
Okay.
And I do title work. So I actually now...
and title work with residential or commercial, you would do either on the title work, correct?
Correct. Residential or commercial.
Okay. Awesome. Larry, again, appreciate you taking the time to explain this a little bit more to us. I think it was worth having the conversation because I think that our clients would want to know that. I think we kind of need to get the word out to always just be vigilant. I think that's the lesson and the story here is just if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck, and just things don't flow. Things aren't flowing right with a potential buyer, or things aren't flowing right. You sign up. I think you talked about there's a sign up perhaps.
Every county has something.
Notified. Yeah. So there's kind of ways you can protect yourself because no one wants to be stuck in that situation where somebody quit-claimed your property, they mortgaged on it, and now you're trying to unravel that and get clear title so that you're actually capable of selling it. It could be a total nightmare. Really, probably even worse than what you hear on stealing identities and people taking the credit cards. It could be a lot larger numbers here potentially involved.
I've had my identity stolen. We could do that at another time. But and I also want to emphasize that while it appears that vacant land and homes with the elderly are particularly vulnerable, a lot of commercial property, of course, is absentee owners. You've got management companies, sure. But it's also vulnerable and probably attractive to these fraudsters.
Okay. Well, Larry, again, appreciate your time, my friend, and we'll chat.
All right. Well, thank you for the time.